I pastor kid at Providence Cemetery with two things on my mind this Easter. The first is the contradictions we face in Easter 2020, both in life and in the whole story of Easter. And the fact that God is writing a story unique to each of our lives, especially in this time of social isolation. This message is really important. Because we all die. We all even celebrities die. In 2020, we've had people like Kobe Bryant, the basketball star, and Rocky Johnson, the WWE wrestler guy, died. Bill Withers, the fellow who wrote songs like Lean on Me, Ain't No Sunshine When You're Gone, and Just the Two of Us. We all die, we all take our final breath. And when Jesus took his final breath, it was like all the air was sucked out of the universe. And it's a bummer. We all die. But is that it? Is that it? The contradictions of life and the contradictions of the Bible are evident. In fact, there were three contradictions that happened that first Easter morning after Jesus was definitely killed. His body was put in a grave, and 3 days later the women came to the tomb early Easter morning, and the first contradiction is that they were expecting death and they found life. They were going to embalm him and they ended up talking to him. The second contradiction is that the soldiers, who the officials wanted to make sure were guarding the tomb of the dead man, the Bible says from Matthew chapter 28, they were as dead men when there was an earthquake and an angel was sitting on the tombstone. And the stone was rolled away and there was an angel sitting on the tombstone. What did the soldiers do but collapse as if they were dead? And the third contradiction is that the dead man, apparently, was alive again. If it wasn't for the angel making the announcement, he has risen, those three words, he has risen, has meant all the difference. Christianity would collapse if that statement wasn't true. And we would be, billions of us, be like following a Pied Piper over a cliff. But if it is true, and many brilliant minds have looked at the evidence, both inside and outside the Bible, for the evidence for the resurrection of Christ, and have been convinced that Christ actually did physically rise from the dead. It has meant great influence in the life of ordinary people and great minds, people who have written symphonies and done amazing portraits and paintings and architecture, and even influenced government, to the fact that Judeo-Christian society around the world have been influenced by this one man raised from the dead, and has inspired all kinds of kindness. Even during the COVID-19, we see chalk art on the sidewalks encouraging people. This too will pass. Keep smiling, they say. You can do hopscotch all over the place with chalk art. And then there are distilleries that are transforming into places where they're making hand sanitizer, people offering free of charge designs for homemade masks to help not spread or flatten the curve and not spread the disease. And then there's governments who are giving billions of dollars away out of kindness for businesses, individuals, families, whatever their needs is, to try and get the right mix of help for people in their time of need. This doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from somewhere. And that kindness started with Christ. But if that's all it was just about a kind act that one man did and taught with wisdom, then why would people die with a sense of hope? The physical resurrection of Jesus is what makes this important. It isn't just about a man who lived for a period of time and inspired people. It's about a man who physically rose from the dead. The Bible says he appeared to over 500 people over the space of about 5 weeks, and that changed the world. It changed everything. His physical resurrection. And there's one man in this cemetery I'd like to talk about for just a minute, and he believed that. He was a young man growing up in Cornwall and in England. He heard the good news as a boy, he heard it again as a teenager, and then as a 21-year-old, he actually turned to Christ himself. He felt convicted of his own sin. He decided that Christ was the best thing for him. He decided to follow him, the risen Lord. And his name is Humphrey Rundle. Humphrey Rundle, you can see that. And he fell asleep on Jesus on July 7th, 1851, age 57 years. Listen to this. He was for 35 years a zealous local preacher among the Bible Christians, most affectionate husband and kind parent. His last words were, "All is well." All is well. The cemetery, a place of sadness, becomes a place of joy, because this is a transition. This short life of ours, however long, because his dear father died just a week before he died, Humphrey Rundle Sr., and his daughter Frances died, daughter of Humphrey and Grace Rundle, September 3rd, 1851, the same year. She was 25. How do you go through all of that grief and the contradictions and pain of life without knowing that there is someone to believe in? That this life is just a first chapter of what's about to happen. Do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe that you're going to die alone and that's it? If there's ever a time for us to believe that we're not alone, it's now. So there's no one stopping you from being able to say yes to Jesus. Look at the evidence, analyze it yourself, and if you feel convicted that you don't want to die alone, believe in him. Say yes to Jesus. Yes, there will still be contradictions both in the Bible and in life, but there will be that assurance and that conviction that there will be a good shepherd to guide you in life and someone to help you in that transition to move from death to life abundant. Pressed down, shaken together, overflowing, and you'll have somewhere to go, just as this car is going somewhere. And you have a life to live. A life to live. Happy Easter.